Welcome to the Javier Mendez podcast without Javier today. Yeah, it's kind of funny. So it's Len, Javier's buddy and cameraman, and Jon Fitch. How you doing today, John?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
My last podcast, I really went into the coronavirus, people keeping safety and stuff. I'd like to get your view on that just to start it off, and we'll get into your career and your goals and what you're doing.
I'm less concerned about the virus than I am about the people's panicky behavior. That's a little more worrying to me. And then I worry about government overstepping, you know, uh, their actions and dealing with the situation. So I don't know. I don't like the idea of giving up freedoms, but at the same time, everybody should stay home and get get uh get this a handle on the spread of the virus. But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's uneasy time. Uneasy time.
Well, I mean, you teach self-defense, so some of your students are going,
Hmm.
thanks, John. Thanks for giving
Hmm.
me a little bit of confidence, right?
Yeah, they can confidently get some toilet paper at the store without getting mugged.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Toilet paper confidence. That's good. Well, I mean, I've talked to fighters in Italy. One of the guys that was at AKA for Khabib's camp, I did a
Mm.
podcast with him. I said this last time. I couldn't translate it. I speak Italian, and I was trying to write it, and we speak so damn fast that if you were watching the video, it would be like blah, and people are like, what did he say? Like a paragraph in 2 seconds
Yeah.
and off the screen. But it's real stuff. So what got you to teach the self-defense? I know that that's a great thing to do for MMA fighters, like you said earlier.
Well, I back in 2011, I went through the Modern Army Combatives program, the MACP program. I got certified as a level 4 instructor. I did that with Dave Camarillo, and we did it to kind of break it down and make it better. And I helped him build his guerrilla combatives program in the beginning, kind of, working through ideas and stuff. And he's been doing a lot of stuff on his own for a long time. And ever since that time, I started developing my Fitch Smash system. SMASH is an acronym for Simple Measures Against Serious Hostiles, and it's my simple fight formula. It can take people from zero to fight ready quickly. Um, and I initially was doing that to use for work as a military contractor, but then I started thinking that it would be better to make it more for self-defense, and I'd be able to reach more people because I like to travel, and I can take this self-defense system. I can take this anywhere and teach it, and that's what I'm hoping to be able to take it, globally. Just basic ideas about self-defense, practical measures people can take to quickly get out of a bad situation.
That's good. So how much does this vary from like a Krav Maga or other combatives out there, Arnis? I mean, certain martial arts.
I haven't taken the Krav Maga, but through Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and other, the popular sport fighting things out there right now, people just don't really have access to uh, practical measures as far as this fighting. I haven't been through the Krav Maga system. I think it's from a couple of my friends that have taken it. They say it's good. But it would probably be fairly similar to the ideas. We just want to make the confrontation as hard of a confrontation as possible for the attacker, and that's usually a pretty good discouragement from and making them want to leave you alone.
So it's not all. I mean, you are a great ground fighter in MMA. I mean, one of the best in the world.
Hmm.
And there's certain limitations on the street fight.
Exactly.
If you're on the ground, been there personally myself, a couple of GI.
You just don't want to, and that was one of the reasons why we wanted to work with the MACP programs, because there was some stuff where they were like hitting a guillotine and pulling guard, and like these are supposed to be for soldiers doing this. I was like, well, they have like armor and backpacks and stuff on. Like, you wouldn't do that.
That makes a difference. I mean,
Hmm.
And you know, interesting to tell you, I used to help run a Krav Maga program with instructor at my gym, and we were teaching SWAT and other police. And it was like try to stay off the ground as much as possible. If you
Hmm.
do, inflict much damage as possible, and get the hell out of there. Get the hell out
Yeah.
of there. It's not a match. It's not 5 rounds. There's no Big John. You
Hmm.
know,
You're
it's
not trying to, yeah. Winning is surviving and not being hurt.
so. I mean, what people might not think about. So a lot of this is this stand up because
Yeah, because it's very the basic course I put together is very basic, and it focuses on space management and um, just being aware of your surroundings and staying away from the conflict is a big part of it, and being able to even de-escalate a situation before it becomes a conflict is something people shouldn't kind of know how to do. And then it's mostly, you're not trying to knock the person out or submit them. You're trying to keep them away from your personal space. I call it a personal space bubble. Keep them outside of it. And if they do try to penetrate it, you control the space, and you can either use violence with certain types of striking, or you can redirect their energy and get away.
so in the street, which is no rules, no referees, the difference between sport and life and death. I mean, I'm just going to finish this off with this, but been in a situation myself. I was a judo guy. I'm on the ground. His buddies decide to use bottle on my head.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I survived. But this is
Yeah.
the kind of stuff you talk about preventing, right?
I had a friend in college who uh, we didn't even know. We were just wrestlers at the time. We didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu. He was kind of basically a mount on a guy, or three-quarter mount something, and he was hitting the guy, and his girlfriend ran up and hit him in the head with a purse, and she had like a Mad Dog 2020 like big bottle in her purse, and it whacked him in the head, and he got a big cut on his head. So I mean, yeah, you just, even when you're in the dominant position in the street, like, you're vulnerable if you're connected to the ground too much.
Yeah. So just I just did that to clarify because I was anticipating. Bless you. I was anticipating that the thing you're trying to do is let people realize, hey, this is. You think my combative system is all jujitsu? No, it's everything, and
Mm.
it's like
My big thing is you have to be able to defend yourself. You have to be mobile. You have to be able to face your opponent, have hip radar, and you need to be in an operational position, which to me is that you're on your feet and you're in an athletic ready stance. Because now you can move, now you can see, you can change direction. So a lot of my focus is getting back to that point and staying in that point.
so. How long was your course that you took with the military? How long did that take to get certified?
Well, we did like a crash course, and we got the first. I got the first two levels were on separate occasions where we did a weekend of, like, you know 16-hour day or whatever. We just did 2 or 3 days of all day instruction to get through the hours, and then we went out to Virginia to a guy who does the 3 and 4 at the same time. So that too was, we were like a week out in West Virginia, um, just running through the course every day, all day until we got it.
Was it surprising to you after being a fighter, seeing these other elements being introduced? Like, because you think as a fighter, you think like a wrestler first, which you were, and
Mhm.
then a jujitsu guy, and then
Well, one of the big things we did, I have a popular video on YouTube where it's called Jon Fitch Gets in a Knife Fight,
Mhm.
and we use a shock knife, and that was our training for this. And I don't mention it in the video, but the purpose of this training was, he just gave us the knife in situations and said, get the knife, and whoever has a knife, try to kill everybody, and everybody else try to disarm it. There was no instruction, there was no explanation. It's like, we just had what we took into the situation from our own experiences, which is, a lot of us were wrestlers, and Dave was judo and jujitsu. And we would all be grappling and flow grappling, and then you'd throw the knife out, and then somebody would go to get the knife, and then everybody tried to disarm him. Or we do one-on-one with one guy having a knife and the other guy had to try to disarm him. But again, there was like no philosophy, no ideology, no lessons. You just said go and do it. So that was a rude awakening, because you have all these ideas in your head of like, well, this is what I would do in a knife fight. This is how I would react. I've got all this knowledge. I know what I would do. And it's not what it would you think at all. You put all this energy and work into isolating that wrist and hand, because you can't just grab the knife because you'll cut your hand. So you put all this work into trying to isolate, and the guy just grabs the knife with the other hand and stabs you. Like it was it was a major rude awakening. And that's why they do it, is because they want you to shake any preconceived notion that you might have that you actually know what you're doing.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, there is kicks and punches and chokes and
We
submission
weren't
holds.
even we weren't even allowed to kick and punch. It was only grappling.
Mm.
Yeah. So like it was very limited with what was actually we could do. And it was, yeah, it's difficult.
That's pretty interesting. I'm sure a lot more people, once this passes, this lockdown, they're going to be signing up for your thing, because people need to learn how to stay safe. They're not all going to be MMA fighters. That's elite
Mm-hmm.
athletes, wrestlers, martial artists, lifelong people in the thing, unless they're super genetically gifted and make a crossover like a Francis Ngannou or something.
And the thing is, people need to understand is like, you're not trying to be a professional fighter. You're never going to be a professional fighter. It's not about you comparing yourself to Francis Ngannou. Like, don't do that. Don't compare yourself to Khabib. Don't do it. This is making you a little bit better. And the reality is, most people are really weak. They're overweight. They're out of shape, and they have absolutely no idea how to fight. And you learning a little bit of technique and strategy is like learning how to swim. Like, these people, basically, they don't know how to swim, and you at least know how to doggy paddle. Like, you're gonna make the most out of the situation in the altercation.
When this is all caught up, I'm going to probably come down and film you if you want, and help you make some high quality stuff so people can see some demos of
Mm-hmm.
what you do. I'm sure you're not going to release the whole system unless it's like, hey, they want to download it all, because it's
Well, that's
intricate.
the idea. Is I've been out teaching
Mhm.
some seminars. I had to cancel my seminar. I was supposed to have one on Sunday, but because or tomorrow, yeah, because of the lockdown here. But hopefully, I'll be able to reschedule it in April or May. And I'm eventually going to make it an online course, so people will be able to take it, even if they can't get to me for a seminar. They'll be able to at least go through it and then work on it with a partner, and work on it at home. I'll make it easy to use, even if you don't have the mats, the mat space.
Well, it's something that combatives are something people can adapt quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like some very certain kicks, like in a karate or even kung fu kick, or taekwondo kick, where the balance and the time of practice and the
Mm-hmm.
repetition is required. You need to be able to do something now. It's not like wait till you have your black belt. I'm sure after a couple of courses, people are at 50% or more better. I mean, I'm sure.
No, I mean, really, if you can learn how to control your space and throw a nasty headbutt or a nasty knee to the groin, like that's really all you need. That's good.
Yeah.
Like that's enough to make a person stop and want to leave you alone. A thumb to the eye, make it
Soft,
simple.
soft targets you're not allowed to hit in the UFC.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Have,
you'll be. I mean, like that's the example I give is like you guys, how much like these big tough fighters react when they get poked in the eye a little bit. Like, how do you think somebody else is going to act when you poke them in the eye?
it's so true. I've seen it in Kaja Kempo. That was one of the arts: ears, eyes, nose, throat. Very
Yeah,
soft target.
they're gonna mess. I teach just framing technique, and it makes it very easy to, once you learn how to do that and you can maintain that space, control their hip distance from your where your hips are at. Like you can open up a lot of easy soft target attacks.
That's pretty awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure after people get this little list and you get nothing else to do, you're hearing about something that John's working on. You'll find it very interesting, and Where can people find anything on that? Just, you know, and I'm not going to, at the end of the show, now that we're talking about it, you know?
Yeah, well, then go to jonfitch.net, sign up for my newsletter, and they'll be up to date. They'll be kept up to date with everything I got going on. My newest thing going on is I'm working on my weight cut book. I have a weight cut book. I'm working on the cover right now. It's already written, but I got to get that up and ready in the next 4 to 6 weeks. I think it'll be ready.
This is kind of the great reveal of Jon Fitch. I mean, you guys don't know this, but, you know, I've done interviews, never get an interview with Jon Fitch. So I'm getting to know him as you are. It's not like premeditated. He's always been kind of stoic. And now he is, at this point in his career, he's been in the UFC. He's been in Bellator, in the PFL, I believe, or WSOF.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've been all around, and for different reasons, and you've fought some of the best competition in the world. I guess I'll bring it back to what got you started in fighting. I mean, was it, you know, wrestling, and then what's next?
Well, I mean, I started wrestling when I was about 9 years old, the 4th grade. But I started playing football then too, and I thought I was going to play professional football my whole life. And wrestling was just something that I loved to do. I just loved to battle with people. And I realized that I wasn't big enough or fast enough my senior year of high school after football season to play football in college. So I decided I'd turn all my attention into wrestling, and was probably on the course to being a high school wrestling coach, football coach, and history teacher, something on that line, maybe a PE teacher.
That's what my dad did, believe it or not. All those things you mentioned, history teacher, PE teacher, football coach, all together in one. That's funny.
But I think as I started traveling, like with the wrestling team, like I kind of really got bit by the travel bug, and I didn't want to get stuck in one place. And Tom Erickson was one of my assistant coaches at Purdue. And Tom had fought in Brazil. He'd fought in Pride. He was friends with Mark Coleman, former UFC champ, one of the first heavyweight champ, I think.
Yeah, the Hammer.
Yeah.
Pride fighter too, big time in Pride.
Yeah, big in Pride. He was the first Grand Prix champ in Pride in 2000, I think. And Gary Goodrich, and Tom fought Gary, and then they started training together, and they were friends. So those guys started coming around, and some other fighters were coming around Purdue at the time. And I would listen in on stories and adventures and stuff that these guys were doing, and they would talk about the money they were making. And it was just this other reality that sounded really exciting. And as I got closer to graduating, I started student teaching. And as I was student teaching, I realized, like, I mean, I don't want to do this, at least not now. I was like, I'm not ready to sit in the classroom and, you know, babysit kids. So I decided to, you know, join the circus and see what the fighting thing was going to lead to. And then I had a year of grad school at Purdue. At the same time, I started fighting professionally, and found my way out to California after that year of grad school.
Where are you from originally?
Oh, excuse me.
No worries. Makes it more interesting.
Man. I'm from Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you just said, I'm going to California. You're like me. I woke up one day. I said, I got to go there. All the magic is there, you know?
Yeah, I packed up all my stuff into my 1990 Buick Regal, silver two-door. Packed my dog in there and what I could fit in the back, and I drove all the way out to San Jose.
Wow. You know, I've had a lot of podcasts with Coach Hav, who's laying low right now, and he's just like, run it. So I'm really appreciative of you coming on here. And I hope the fans understand this isn't me trying to high side. It's me giving you content. All the videos you watch, I've been filming and editing for years. That's what you get. And I know a lot of these fighters. I know a lot about these fighters because I've been around this game for at least 13, 14 years, maybe 15 years. You know, did you ever train with Chuck or anything, Chuck Liddell?
A little bit, but it was down and slow.
Okay, so his best friend is how I got into this. They're not friends anymore, I guess, but he knew Chuck from college. They wrestled together at Cal Poly. He's like, you got to meet Chuck. And this is the early UFCs. And I was doing real estate, and life was grand. And I'm like, yeah. We'll open a martial arts gym. Yeah. But, you know, we're so busy selling real estate, doing well, that we said, you know, I'll get back to that later. Then the market crashes, 2007, and I come into your world full blast because there's nothing else to do, man. You can't sell
Mm.
houses. The banks are closing up. It's a little situation. So we opened a gym, and then I started filming and I fell in love with that. And I ended up seeing you. And I'm like, Jon Fitch, nobody's ever really asked him all the questions. They just, how's your ground game? How's your stand up going? How's your ground game? Right.
Mm.
And you sit there and going, now ask me something, man.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a podcast too. What is that podcast?
Yeah, I have a few podcasts. I have a number of podcasts. My one that I run my own is Jon Fitch Knows Nothing, and I usually live stream that on YouTube, but it's also up on Podbean and iTunes and Spotify, the regular
Mm-hmm.
places. And then I have Fitch Tinkle Fitch and Tinkle Smash Everything. It's me and my friend Chris Tinkle is a comedian. We've done a few live shows, or we've done a live show. We're planning on doing some more. But yeah, we basically talk about everything. Sometimes we do watch alongs with the fights or movies sometimes too. Make smart ass comments along with the movies. So that's fun. And then I do mixed martial mindset with Jason Burmis. I do that also. That's usually streamed on YouTube. So we talk about current events, current topics, and martial arts stuff, mixed martial arts stuff.
It's funny because, mindset is your strength. And I know this because I did a podcast with Hav. And I said, who is your hardest working fighter? This was a fan question. And, who just was naturally aspirated. And he said it was you. He said the strongest mindset, he didn't come in built like Francis or somebody else like that. It was mind over matter with Jon Fitch. And you went to the highest levels. I mean, your last fight was with was Bellator or was that PFO?
Yeah, Bellator. I beat Rory's ass.
Yeah, and they gave you that crappy decision, right?
Terrible.
Horrible. They give you that draw. We'll get into the fan questions after this, but so you got all these podcasts. We see a lot of fighters doing podcasts. You get Josh Thompson. You got your coach. You're like, who's next, right? You're like, hey,
Well, I mean, you seem like it sounds like everybody's got a podcast, but honestly, there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there who are willing to listen, and you don't even need that huge of a following. You need just a solid following that's interactive, because you can get plenty of support through that. I think the something Gary Vee was talking about a little bit, but like the new future moving forward is like instead of the small town, you have the small town store where people were regulars and people knew the owner and people would walk through because everybody lived there and those were just all the people there. So like now you're creating those types of communities, but online. So you're producing content, or you've got a product out there. You're building a community of those people, and they're choosing to join that little bit of community. But it's kind of like a similar thing there.
It's true. I mean, I believe strongly in it right now. This is almost like, hey, there's nothing to watch, and there's Jon Fitch, and it's like your prime time. And I feel, to me, just my outlook on you as a guy on the outside, going, Jon Fitch is a guy that's been holding back on a huge conversation, and now he's unleashing it on all his podcasts. You are like, I got something to say. Not yet. And because when you were in the UFC, it was not the Conor, hype fights. It was like, look at my record. I am winning. Give me my prize money, right?
Yeah, they hadn't quite jumped all the way over to full on pro wrestling yet, but yeah, it was a little different. They started changing it from winning to entertainment somewhere around 2010, I think, and it's kind of frustrating to watch. I still love watching the fights, but I preferred to watch. It is more based in a sport. Hopefully we'll get back to that as we get some free agency in the sport and the fighters start making a better percentage of the money.
What was that? Your pedigree, because you're a wrestler, you never like walked on the wrestling mat like, I'm gonna wrestle you, man. Gonna really wrestle the hell out of you. You guys weren't doing that, right? It's like you're like, no, it's just professional. It's Olympic. There's rules, good conduct. And did that stick with you think, or do you think you ever would have been a hype guy?
Well, no, I mean, I thought it was always, I mean, if there was, for me, it was, there was no clear merit. Like there was no clear merit for success. So why are you putting in the effort, the extra effort to sell yourself? Because really you're just making them more money. Isn't it? You're only getting a bigger breadcrumb of the money that's being generated. So I mean, I don't know. It wasn't a motivating situation.
Yeah, I mean, can I talk about other things like we talked about earlier? Are you cool with that, or you want me to?
Yeah, talk
Yeah.
about anything.
Yeah, well, I remember that you were the first guy that was looking out for his rights on the video game.
Hmm.
And I don't know if NFL players get paid to be on Madden's video
Yeah,
game.
yeah, they get their Madden checks every year. It's a staple for their survival. Yeah,
Wow. So if you're in a video game, you get paid like you were on a movie syndicated
because
TV.
they own their likeness. They cut deals with companies to use their likenesses.
Yeah, your likeness is gone once you
Hmm.
sign up for certain leagues. All leagues, most of them, I don't know. Or is it all?
No, in MMA, the promoters, there are no leagues in MMA. Other professional athletes that actually have leagues, the team sports, they have players associations, and the athletes own their own likenesses.
What was interesting, I was friends with Oakland Raider, and I was like, "Are you getting all this Nike money or this and that?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's about 13 grand." It wasn't that big. He didn't have the exclusive deal like the certain
Yeah,
top guy, right?
if it's like there's some kind of like number to it. If it's like if you want to do a deal with four or less guys, it's a certain different percentage for those guys. But if it's for a group of them, it's less. So there's different stipulations. But the thing is, like, they have a vote on how that stuff's done. You know, they're getting a piece of that Dorito money. They're getting a piece of that Nike money, where the fighters aren't really getting a piece of the Reebok money. You know, they lost a big revenue source from sponsors, and then now, they get little nothing from Reebok.
Well, Brendan Schaub was one of the pioneers. He went out and started his podcast, buddies with Joe, buddies with his comedian buddy Callan. And I guess Callan by himself wasn't killing it on the podcast world, but the fluidity of those two together that brought something. And that was a guy going, I don't know if I'm going to fight anymore. Let me test out the waters over here. Let me build my own brand.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get from under the league and do my own individual, keep most of the revenue, right?
And that's where we're at right now with the younger fighters, is they're going to have to brand themselves and promote themselves, because the promotions will no longer do what their name says they're supposed to. They're not really promoting you anymore. They want you to do it yourself, and then they'll use your notoriety that you generated yourself, and they'll use that in the fight to profit off of you.
Hmm. You got to look at it like this. An interesting individual is who's that comedian with the biggest following? He's in the movies The Rock. Trying to think of his name.
Oh, Kevin Hart.
Yeah, Kevin Hart, right? Kevin Hart is huge, and Kevin Hart does a movie with The Rock, and they go, "Oh, put it out on your 20 or 200 million followers." Yeah, yeah, put the movie out. He's like, "You just paid me 20 million to do a movie. Now, if you want to use my social media, that's another contract. We can negotiate that, and possibly higher than what he was paid to do the movie, because the distribution is an engaged crowd, and it does guarantee the sale. If you want to make it a blockbuster, you want to sell,
Mm-hmm.
$500 million movie sale.
Yeah.
You put it out to 200 million people with a high engagement rate, you guarantee those box office numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You realize this. You've always been the first guy looking out for it. I've noticed. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, your attitude towards the video game kind of indicated that long ago.
Well, I mean, the uh, the thing is, I wasn't the only one who had a problem with that video game. Okay, so I was targeted. That's what happened with the video game. Nobody was signing the video game. Like, they had sent those contracts out. It'd been a couple months. People were not signing them. People did not like the merchandising agreement. They did not like the video game agreement. There was no money involved. You're signing over all your rights. There's no way to opt out. There's no way to audit. It was a bad deal. Um, People weren't signing it. So I was in a situation where they knew I had butt heads with them a little bit because I still hadn't quite seen that, you know, they were pushing towards just an entertainment only platform. And I had just lost to GSP. I was popular. Um, I had a great fight of the night. You know, I was a high profile person. So they targeted me because I didn't sign it like a bunch of other people didn't sign it, but I had lost the fight. So they could fire me. They could release or cancel my contract, whatever. I had already had a bout agreement to sign and to fight Gono, I think, uh, that next year in January or something. But yeah, they released me from my contract, and they didn't even tell me ahead of time. They went and leaked it to the press. They had the press ready to release a story and make sure everybody out there knew that, oh, look what happened. Jon Fitch got released because he didn't sign the video game agreement. So now that scares the shit out of everybody, and they're like, oh, if they're gonna cut this guy, he went 8-0, fought GSP to a decision. They cut this guy. What are they gonna do to me?
Yeah.
So they all started signing, and then we ended up. They ended up threatening the rest of AKA and Zekin Entertainment if I didn't come back, because I was going to go to Strike Force, and when I didn't you know beg to come back to the UFC, and I was like, yeah, if I'm fine with going to Strike Force. They said, oh, if he doesn't come back and sign the contract, we're never going to have anybody from AKA or Zekin Entertainment fight for UFC ever again.
Couldn't have.
You know, end up signing the contracts.
Yeah. You took it on the chin for your teammates.
Mm.
That's why you were probably quiet and not giving away the big interviews. Here we are with the Jon Fitch Unloaded, you know. But what are you doing now? Are you going to be fighting some more?
I don't know. I put my name back in there to see what Bellator could have. Everything's backed up right now. I would have loved to have fought Lima and got him to defend his belt at 170, but he's fighting at 185. So I'd be interested if I could get like maybe a title contending fight, and maybe come back. But I don't know. I could be okay with walking away and not fighting anymore.
You're getting into your business side, your educated intellectual side right now.
Yeah, trying to make some money without getting punched in the face.
How are you enjoying that? I mean, how are you seeing the progression on that? You're starting to think and look at things like, what if I don't have a bout? Because that's always like, hey, it's like real estate. I got to deal with this thing in a month.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean that's the thing. Is like it's almost 20 years of me living from score to score, kind of. You know, it's not really been a steady paycheck ever. It's always, you know, it's I don't know. I'll make a bunch here, make a bunch there. I'm just, yeah. What do the kids say today? Securing bags.
Mm-hmm. Feast and famine. I mean, how was that ride, man? I mean, I've been through it in real estate. You know,
Well, I
zero to
mean,
zero.
I've been doing it, you know, for a long time, so kind of used to it. But yeah, it was tough. Some of those years with kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Because when I got released from the UFC, I was fighting less and I was making less money per fight. So yeah, it was longer breaks in between when we had a good amount of money in the bank.
Did you supplement your income doing anything else, teaching or anything else like you're doing now, or this is just new?
No, this is kind of new. I kind of was focused full time on raising the kids and training and fighting. I had some teaching I was doing when I lived in Vegas for a couple of years, and I was running some classes and teaching the fight team over there at One Kicks gym. So you know, I'd been doing some teaching here and there, and I always do seminars around when I can.
Mm-hmm.
But I had put full focus into the seminars like I have now.
So, I mean, people are seeing, they're hearing they're finding out who you are. I'm finding out who you are, but you know, I see what you're doing, so that gives me an indicator of intelligence, which direction you're going. I have another friend. I'm not going to drop his name. He's a fighter. he found, he had trouble getting his feet under him. He still has. I said, just work. There's no pride in the dollar. You get used to that big 40, 80, 60,000 check. One more fight, 3 more months, but you're always in arrears financially if you're not balancing your math. Your cost of living. What was the first thing everybody did back in the day? Oh, I'm going to buy myself an Escalade. I mean, that was live in that thing. And you're going to feed that thing gas, and the gas prices went up, and some jewelry that you look cool at the party for that one time at the whatever beach in Vegas, right? And I don't know. At what point in your career did you start saying, okay, this is going in the reserves?
Oh, always. I started hiding money when I was in the 2nd grade, first communion. After I first got my first stack of cash, I started burying that in the yard and hiding my money away. I would save quarters in high school that I would find and cash those in for money. Like, I've always been putting money away. So I bought a house as soon as I could, or a condo out here. But it was like before the worst of the crash. See, the bubble had popped, and I thought the prices had dropped enough because they'd already dropped like 200,000. So I bought a condo, and then after I bought the condo, it dropped another like 250,000. So I luckily had put money in reserves. I'd always put money into a SEP IRA since I started fighting, and I could make a big write-off with that every year. So yeah, so I've put everything pretty well, and I've saved well, and then I bought a house when the market was at its lowest in 2011. I was able to sell that a few years ago. So I've done well with putting the majority of my money into a long-term investment while just living off of a little bit of money. No big frills, because I mean a lot of my career was just in the gym training for a fight, go to the fight, have a good weekend and a good week after, and then right back to the gym. So there wasn't a lot of excess.
Yeah, you were training, so you weren't shopping. Basically.
Yeah.
Right.
I wasn't flying around drinking, or I wasn't consuming. I was just other than spending money on good food.
Yeah, I mean, the steakhouse, like, hey, I used to eat burgers. Now I'm a steakhouse guy. That happens. You get a little upgrade. It's hard to hold it back. I've been through it. I've gone from 0 to hero, and then 0, and then to find your middle is what you're doing right now. Where is my middle in what your business and all your knowledge? And I think that what will work great for you is that you've become a strategic thinker your whole life in winning. It's like playing chess. It's chess in the cage, and business is the same. So, I mean, you get out of there, you seem to have all your faculties. You didn't take a bunch of poundings to the head. You were winning more than you were losing. That's why. Come out the other side. Yeah, let's go into fan questions. I'm going to share the screen with you. Let me find the wonderful screen. Okay. And we will give these people shout outs. Okay. So here you are. I took one of your pictures here. Okay. This is funny. This is from Karn Patel. Question: do you know that Wikipedia says that you invented the steamboat? How do you feel about that?
That is Jon Fitch with a H, and that is a distant relative to what I know, from what I know. So Jon Fitch is somebody I'm related to, supposedly.
You invented the steamboat and fought. Okay, we got you.
There's another Jon Fitch who is a race car driver.
Okay. You guys, that's a good name to have then. This is from Korean British. Who is the smelliest fighter you've ever fought? Thanks for the content.
Smelliest fighter I've ever fought.
Unique question.
I don't know if I can remember smelling anybody.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You were probably one of the fortunate few. I mean, some guys didn't bathe on purpose for the grappling. They thought that was.
I know that was a story that Matt Lindland they said he'd eat an onion and be all stinky.
Yeah.
But I can't distinctly remember anybody's smell. I'll have to go through my journals and see if I ever wrote about anybody's smell. But I don't think I have.
Well, then you're fortunate, I think. I think you're fortunate.
Yeah. It could be I've broken my nose 4 times. Maybe I just don't smell very good.
You're lucky.
Yeah.
Uh, this is from Lethway Malthai. I think that's how you pronounce it. If I said it wrong, my apologies.
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.
Yeah. Oh, see, you know that.
That,
You know how to pronounce
that's the headbutting Muay Thai, where they
it.
nine limbs they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who was your toughest? Who was your toughest fight and favorite fighters of yours? Mine's favorite name is Jon Fitch.
My toughest fight. I mean, GSP was my toughest fight, I would say, of course. And then my favorite fighters. Man, what's his name? I like the old school guys. Um, Damn it, Igor Vochanchin.
Oh gosh, yeah. Hammer.
Igor. Yeah, Igor was one of my favorites.
You're just like
Sure.
the bouncy, powerful underdog. You just hopped in.
Yeah, he was just.
Covered.
He was like 5'8", 220, and he just would throw these big ass bombs. Yeah.
He took down all kinds of people. And who was it
Yeah.
that beat him?
Yeah, I think he fought the first time I think I saw him or whatever. He was in like a 32-man tournament in Russia, I think.
Yeah.
fought like 8 times one night, some shit.
I saw some history on him. They said when they heard his name, people went running. Like he was that scary of a terror growing up. He was that much of a tough guy. So
I got to meet him. I cornered Tom Erickson in a Pride event a long time ago, and I got to meet him. I got to shake his hand. He had like thick bear paws for hands. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
I mean,
see why he hit people so hard. His hands were literally like hammers.
he was clocking everybody. I think he dropped Big Daddy and a bunch of other people, if I recall right, from Pride. And then it was Crow Cop or somebody that took him out.
Yeah, so he got banked. Yeah, kicked in the head pretty good.
I used to watch all those Pride fights. They were great. Did you ever fight overseas?
I fought in Japan once. Brian Johnson put together a show with I think New Japan Wrestling, and it was called X1. They only did one show, but yeah, we flew out there, and I fought once. My fight is actually on my YouTube channel. I fought Gabe Garcia.
Wow.
And yeah, it was fun. I got a nice suplex.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. But like, yeah, not a lot of people came, and yeah, they didn't. I don't think they made any money. We didn't come back. But there was a couple like fake fights, a couple worked fights. One was the 16-year-old kid that was famous for like kicking bats and breaking backs. He must be like a Kyokushin karate guy they know. But he was 16 years old, and they set him up to fight some American, and it was a work, but I don't think anybody told the kid. So he ended up like I think knocking the guy out anyways, because the guy was like faking when went down, and the kid hit him again anyways. So yeah.
So Japan, did you get any other like? I know the guy that really thrived over there. We talked about him all the time. Bob Sapp. He get all the commercials. He made his money doing Chiquita Banana commercials.
He had albums. He sang. He had an album. He sang, and it's Sap Time or something like that. Like, talk about cashing in on an opportunity. Why not?
Top of the charts. I had friends when I was in the military that got stationed in the Navy. I went there a few times, and they're like, "Oh, you're a model." They get all these TV contracts, and I'm like, "You're the most average-looking person I've ever seen in the States. They probably wouldn't grab you unless they wanted to sell something generic, you know." And not that the guy was ugly, but he was just like a regular guy. I mean, not the guy that you worry is going to steal your.
Humongous.
They love it. I mean, Bob Sapp, he cleaned up. So here's a question. Osama bin Kush. Okay. Osama bin Kush, did somebody bully you at school, and what was your reaction?
No, I never really got bullied at school. Yeah, I know. I went to Catholic grade school, and I was a kind of a bigger kid, and I didn't get bullied in school. And then by the time I got to junior high and high school, I had older brothers and cousins that have been through the school system. So like I already had clout. So like I was lucky. I didn't have to worry about that. Plus I also, I always ran with the guys who were the athletes, and we were the good guys, and we didn't like bullies, and
That's nice.
yeah.
Abdush Shakur, what is your winning prediction of Khabib in 249?
Man, let's hope it really happens. I think Khabib wins. I think he's going to be too much for Tony, overwhelm him, put him in the fence. I think Tony will not be able to deal with his control.
That's you know the difference. You're a monster grappler, and you've got
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows this like you. It's different. One thing I asked Hav, who knows a lot. Another thing, a guy who's victorious by application like yourself. I mean, you've got
Mm-hmm.
millions of hours on your odometer in the grappling department.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you see the strength? What strengths do you see that Khabib has? I mean, without giving away any top secrets.
Well, it's just that style, being able to do what he's able to do. If he's able to get a takedown, he's able to put you into the fence in that little corner. The amount of energy it takes to get away or deal with that, like you're only going to have enough air in your body to do it once or twice. If you get taken down the third time, you're probably not getting back up. I don't care who it is and how great a shape they're in. It's just that hard to deal with.
You've rolled with Khabib before, I presume. I know you're in little slightly different weight classes. You're a welterweight. He was 155.
No, like I've adjusted and added a lot of things to my self-defense and my my Fitch Smash system. I have like 3 tiers to it. My first one I call AMOS. That's achieving and maintaining operational status, and that's just getting up to a ready position. Get up. And a lot of that stuff I put in there is because I had to test it with trying to get away from Khabib, because he's the best at staying on top of somebody. If he wants to stay on top of you, he's almost always going to do it. So there's certain things you have to prepare when, especially if he has your back, he has his hands locked around you. Like there's just certain things you're not going to do.
What was here's this isn't a question. Hang in there. You need some aguas.
I know, man. Hopefully that's not Corona.
Put down the Corona.
Drink some more whiskey. Kill it.
Yeah, that'll get rid of it. I got to ask you. You have seen the darts and the elbows, and let's say you were fighting Tony. You're a great person to ask. Mm-hmm. It's all hypothetical. It's a different league. It seems so far, if not impossible, to ever happen. But so you could probably just lay out what you see, because you haven't been sitting there with Coach and Khabib coming up with their game plan, or his dad. They're doing their own thing. You're totally a high level professional. What do you think any weaknesses you see in Tony Ferguson's game if you had to fight him?
Well, I mean, it's not even a matter of weaknesses. It's a battle of who's able to apply what they want to do. Is Tony going to be able to create space and use elbows enough to do damage and win the fight, or is Khabib going to be able to secure top control in a position he can't get elbowed, do damage? Is he going to be able to control the wrist? Is he going to be able to keep that head out of the range where he's going to take elbows? And it's just, 2 sides of that coin. Who's going to be able to implement their will?
Yeah, it's will. This is a game. This is a fight of will.
Right now. This isn't. I don't think between the 2 of them. I don't think it's a battle of weaknesses. It's a battle of will. I think who implements whose will on the other.
It's so true. Now, his darce, how threatening is that darce? I've seen it. It's very interesting. It's unique. It's like watching Anderson Silva when he was coming up with his moves to a lot of people they weren't expecting.
Yeah, he's got a unique attack with that. It's cool. It's kind of an old like anime movie or something. The guys get built for a certain type of kung fu finish or whatever. But like he's got these long arms and it's like shoulders rolled forward. Like he's built for darce chokes and arm in chokes. So like, yeah, he's going to have to be aware of where his head is. Like he just isn't going to be able to ride with his head low at all because the chokes are there and the elbows are there. So like he should be looking for wrist control and posturing up as much as possible.
It's like a missile defense system. You know that you're going in there. They got the radar. You know what you're going up against.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to approach this? You know, what's the deal here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is that a fight you would have liked to have had in your career? Someone like Tony?
Well, I mean, I never could have made 155, but there's a lot of fights I wouldn't have mind having. That's the most frustrating thing with after being released from the UFC is my consistency of fights dropped from like three fights a year to like one fight every 9 months.
Yeah, you just need a podcast with 2 million followers, and then you'll get all the fights. I'm being sarcastic but truthful. It is about advertising. I'm going to tell you something, John. I help radio guys transition. Actually, I have one I'll probably put up. I talked to a baseball guy about how this coronavirus is changing the sports and how sports are important to keep people's morale up during all this shit that we're going through, right? And seeing fights is not bad. I think that gives people strength. It gives somebody something to live through, something to wish upon, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I see what you're saying though earlier. Back to your question about, you know, having a brand, because the radio guys are not big on the internet. They're big on the radio. So if it used to, all you had to be is one of the 20 or 40 or 80 guys on the roster, and you were somebody. And then the roster get 500 deep, so it kind of it dissipated, and now it's 1,000 deep. But who would you like to fight if you had a chance? Like, who would you pick?
Well, this age of my life, I want to fight all the champs. I just want to fight the best guys. Like, there's no real reason for me to fight anybody else if they're not a champ at this point. I've been in this for 17 and a half years. I haven't lost a fight since 2014. I have a world title. I've fought for world titles. I would like to fight for another world title this decade, because then I'd be a fighter who'd fought for titles in 3 consecutive decades.
Yeah, people, if you're not out there, blah, 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 I'm Jon Fitch, they can realize that you're one of the best in the world, and they have to look back. The casuals don't realize that. The hardcore know what you've done. I do, because I used to work with Jake Shields, and he was a great contender. And everybody was like, one day that fight will come, the Jake Shields and Jon Fitch, because you guys would go at it at AKA. He'd come down there and train, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys were like, he'd get one, you'd get one. It would go back and forth until you guys had your final showdown. Was that pretty satisfying, taking that win from Jake in that show?
Yeah, it was a good fight. It was a good win. I wish it would have gotten more attention, because we've both been putting a lot of good fights together for a long time. And I don't think at the time PFL or WSFOS had their promoting chops all together. I think a lot of people didn't even know a lot of the fights were going on. They're doing a little bit better job now. They're catching their stride. But yeah, it was a good fight. It was a good win.
I think at one point Javier, just as the coach, had more of a following than the whole show on Instagram. I mean, Javier, there's a fight down the street. Good promotion, done, right? So let's see, who wins, Lima or Masvidal?
I think. So cross promotion.
That was a cross promotion. Oh yeah, I caught that. I realized. I thought they were going Lima and
yeah.
Who's coming up against the Dutchman, right?
Yeah. So no, I mean, I think Lima beats Masvidal. I do. Masvidal's on fire. He's had a great year, but I don't think he's top 5.
Yeah.
No.
I think Lima's a stud, man.
Might not be top 10. Lima's really good, but still, he can't wrestle. I'd still whoop him. Him.
That's a fight you want. That's so. Hey, we're promoting. I like him. I interviewed him, but
nice guy. But yeah, he tries leg kick. I take him down. He gets tired.
How did you like that Michael Venom Page? That was a great comeback. That fight out of nowhere.
Which one? The one where Lima knocked him out? Oh, yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing is they keep pushing this MVP. Like, oh, when's he going to get a title shot? When's he going to get a title shot? He can't beat top 10 guys. They're gonna have him keep fighting him against guys who, when they put him on the the versus screen. Like it's just the silhouette. They don't have a picture for him.
Your Sherdog profile
But
is
yeah, like yeah,
blank
it's just
page.
the ghost. Like every time he fights somebody, it's like you've never heard of the guy. He doesn't even have a picture. Come on.
Here's an interesting question from Mark Davis. Best fighter you've seen in the gym that couldn't put it together under the bright lights, and hear a lot of stories. Would love to hear who he thinks. This person says, I'll always be tuned in.
I mean, honestly, there's too many to
But you don't want to
remember.
name drop or devalue
There's
someone. That's kind of
yeah.
a tough
Well,
question.
I mean, there's too many to remember. Like the ones that you've never heard of them. If I said their name, it wouldn't matter because yeah, they just didn't turn out to do anything. They just disappeared. So like I mean, it happens all the time. So like guys show up, guys would train. You know, after a while, guys wash out. Sometimes it's just not what they're meant to do.
Well, I guess another way to stack that question, of the guys that come in there, how many of those types of guys are there over time? How many gym, like I asked the same question kind of with Hob once, like how many gym heroes have you seen that once they get to the lights, they choke? And why is that? Why do you think that happens? The lights or what?
Um, I know. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it's just they. I mean, it depends. It's the first time in the UFC or Strike Force or a real big show. Sometimes that can be overwhelming. Get a little bit of adrenaline dump. They haven't figured out how to do the mental process, or they don't have the mindset to do it successfully. But I don't know. Sometimes these guys, they're kind of pretenders. They're not really fighters. And then when they have a fight, they realize like, yeah, this is not me. I don't want to do this. And then they just kind of stop.
This is not the cold. This is just me needing some water. So, and same with John. We just like to cough. We're trying to.
Mm-hmm.
It's not psychosomatic. Don't worry. I've been staying in my house. But I got to say this. We have another guy that I do a podcast with. Have you ever met Tony Valenti, who's Javier's friend from Vegas?
Yeah. He's been holding mitts for some of the guys.
He's a great guy. And he was talking about gym heroes, and he's like seen it in Mayweather's gym where there'd be an angry cab driver that would just walk in and knock out high level guys and go, got that out of my system. They jump back and go drive his cab and never show up. I mean,
yeah,
he's kind of ghost, right? So this has been really good. I asked a lot of questions. And is there anything else you want to put out there on the stuff that you've got going on where people can get to learn more about Jon? We talked about Smash and we talked about the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if they go to jonfitch.net, they can find all my social media. They can sign up for the email list. I have some blogs there too. Yeah, I'm just working on podcasts. I've got my weight cutting book coming out soon, hopefully. And I have a book, Failing Upward, Death by Ego. It's available on Amazon. That I talk about the early days of MMA and when I first moved out to AKA. I've taken a lot of journals over my fight career, so I'm sharing what I put in my journals, and I'm writing like reflections on what's in the journals, kind of letting people see like how crazy it was when we first started back in the day.
You're one of the first and only guys I know that's done that. It's ever said, yeah, my journals and I'm writing and I'm pulling from them. That's the intellectual side of you that you've been quiet, but you've been doing stuff with it, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was reading through those journals thinking I was gonna, just write an overview, autobiography type thing with it. But the journals are just they're a little bit crazy because they're kind of obsessive.
Mm-hmm.
And just some of the stuff I'm talking about in there, I think it's just too good not to share what's in there. But yeah. I think,
Anything like, I'm not going to let Billy ever take me down again like that. Never going to happen. Okay, how do I write this into a book? I'm joking. That's kind of my angle there. So it's jonfitch.net, Jon Fitch.
Yeah.
JHON, JON Fitch.
JON, yep, Fitch.net.
What is your Instagram handle too?
Jon Fitch Smash.
Okay. We want you guys to follow Jon. He gave us time. Everybody else is running for cover. This guy's like, hey, man, I'll entertain the fans. I'll give them a podcast. Plus, your podcasts are good. So they can find out more stuff, something to watch. We're going to burn Netflix
Mm-hmm.
into the ground. They're not making any movies. That's so, yeah, I kind of end on the note, like, what are you going to do with your time now that we have this stay at home time? I mean,
Well, I'm gonna put together. I'm working on putting together some online course stuff, and then I'm doing I'm on Rockfin, which is another a platform. It's a subscription platform that has a lot of creators on it. Shel Sonnen, Scott Adams, Ben Askren are all on there. A lot of different things going on. So I'll putting up some content on that also.
I mean, for those of you, if we just dove into this too fast, you've been fighting for what, 20 years?
It's 17 and a half.
Round
I've
it up.
been wrestling for more than 30 though. So I've been fighting people for a long time.
You get the longevity. I mean, has anybody got you beat time wise, or you're up in the top? If that's part of the deal, like how many miles?
Oh, I mean, Thompson fought for maybe 20 years before he quit because he started really early. He started as a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't start until after college.
Wow.
Yeah.
So one other thing, because I'm remembering questions like, this is the last thing. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Just teasing you guys. Jon, what do they get from your podcast different than some of the other podcasts? What is the flavor of Jon Fitch? What do you bring? What can people look forward to?
Well, I mean, I talk to a lot of people who I find interesting in different types of um, professions, different types of cultures, different types of things like that I'm not used to, or I don't know anything about. That's why it's about me not knowing nothing. And then I kind of relate that back to you because I have a lot of younger men who watch, so we'll turn that into ideas for guys and how to live their life better, how to be good at being a man type stuff. And then I've had some girls on too. We talk a little bit about like the social atmosphere for dating and stuff like that. That way guys that are watching can get a girl's perspective about stuff. And they're usually live streams, so I'll have questions and people ask questions at the same time that I'm doing the interview.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's a different world than when you started MMA.
Mm-hmm.
It's all
No, it's just it gives me a
online.
chance to learn new stuff. I might have never learned anything about otherwise, and I get to learn directly from the people who know about it.
That's pretty awesome. It's been a great podcast with you, Jon. I think people will be entertained. You guys get nothing better to do. Just chill, sit on the couch, watch Jon, enjoy the podcast, subscribe, follow us, follow Jon Fitch, JONFITCH.net, and you'll get all his stuff. This is one of the best fighters that's ever been in the octagon and been in Strike. Were you in Strike Force? No.
No, never went to Strike Force. Yeah.
Everything but Strike Force and Affliction. Right. So you may not have realized that, but I'm summing it up. Thanks, guys. Stay safe. Keep your social distance. Stay in your house. Stay healthy. Let's ride this out, and we'll try to bring you something new soon. And if I'm not putting anything out, like I said, go look and see what Jon's got to put out there.